Wade, thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate it a lot. Very busy time of year. How are you feeling right now? You're on the road constantly running up to WrestleMania. How are you feeling in yourself?
Oh, we feel great right now. Thank you for having me on too. I
Of
appreciate you
course.
guys taking time out on this. Yeah, we're fired up. This is our most exciting kind of 6 week run of the year. All the storylines are peaking. There's a ton of buzz right now. So yeah, we're very, very busy. And in my downtime, I'm also busy playing WWE 2K26 on my Nintendo Switch when I travel. So I'm having a lot of fun playing that too.
Very nice. There's not a moment where you're not consuming wrestling, whether it be 5 feet away from you or on your Nintendo Switch.
Man, that's pretty much been me since the age of about 9 or 10 years old. I've been an addict for a fan for many, many years, and then for the past 20 plus years behind the curtain too. Yeah, so it's an all-consuming lifestyle, and thankfully I love it.
Mm. Is there a specific WrestleMania match that you've got your eye on? Obviously, your old mate Drew is going to be in a serious stramash with Fatu at that event, but
What
is
was
there
that
anything
word?
else?
What was
Stramash?
that?
Surely Drew's taught you that. That's a Scottish word there.
He has not. I've had a lot of Scottish friends in my time, and they don't usually use polite words, but I'll have to remember that one and use that on him. But yeah, I can't wait for Drew and Fatu. Kind of a no holds barred, unsanctioned. I think they've got a big chance to steal the show.
Mm.
It's just going to be chaos from the word go, as it has been from day one with those two. Both two incredibly talented guys who like to go balls to the wall.
Mm.
And they're just going to, make a mess of that entire building in Las Vegas. And I think we're all excited to see how far they can take things. So I'm excited for that. I can't wait for the Obafemi Brock Lesnar match.
Oh yeah.
Just the kind of match that it looks like two people who shouldn't be called human beings, two people who should be characters from a Marvel movie colliding with the ultimate in power and malice. And it's one of those matches that I personally have been watching wrestling a long time. I've kind of seen everything at this point. It's
Mm.
rare that something can come along and surprise me. I've just got no idea how that match is going to go and how it's going to look. And that really, for a veteran fan like myself, really intrigues me.
Obviously, when you're actually there and you're commentating on the match, it's very easy to kind of vibe off the energy in the room. You can almost let that take over. But when you're recording something like a game and you're recording things disconnected from the actual events, how do you get yourself into performance mode, if you will? How do you really sell it that you are commentating on a match potentially with two superstars who are no longer with us, which is obviously a different challenge as well?
Yeah, you've got to tap into a different part of your brain. There's a performer aspect in what we do in professional wrestling, of course. From from day one that you walk into this business, you've got to learn to be a character, learn to perhaps present storylines that maybe you don't really feel, but you've got to make them legit for the audience, or play a character that you're not really feeling. Well, guess what? You've got to make it work out there, otherwise your career isn't going to last too long. So, yeah, just tapping into that performer brain. I'll be honest with you, I do these sessions and they're usually 2 or 3 hour blocks that I do them in. It takes me about 60 seconds to get warmed up. The first couple of lines are usually a bit clunky. And then once I'm in there, I just slip into that zone where I'm in performer mode and, tapping into my past experience as a fan, whatever excites me in the world of wrestling, try and tap into that and bring it to my delivery on these lines that I'm hitting.
Mm. Now that the rosters are getting so big and there's so many like classic superstars and legends in these games, was there any lines you recorded or superstars you commentated for that you thought that's very cool? I didn't think ever get a chance to commentate over a New Jack match, for example.
Yeah, there were definitely some pretty bizarre ones in there that I didn't anticipate coming. Guys like Abyss, who was huge in
Yeah.
TNA, now works for WWE. Obviously, he's in the game for the first time this year, the Monster Abyss. And he's a great dude behind the scenes. I don't know if people watch the WWE Unreal show. He's kind of been the star, inadvertently, one of the stars of that. He's quite a quirky guy behind the scenes. So stuff like that. But for me personally, my favorite's always going to be getting to commentate on the British Bulldog, Davy Boy Smith. And he was my favorite as a kid. He's the guy whose poster was on my wall as a 9 or 10 year old boy. And he's somebody who he passed away before I got involved in the business and moved from being a fan to being a wrestler. So I never got to meet him. I know his family quite well. But to get to sit there now and commentate on his moves and his matches, the guy who really inspired me to get involved in this game 35 years ago as a fan, yeah, that's really cool.
That is very cool. On that British theme, when you came into the WWE, when I was watching when you debuted with the Nexus, I was like, yes, another British person. There's so few of them. But now, like, half the ICW roster who I went to see in Glasgow all the time have been through WWE. So what's that like now?
It's actually really cool. So I remember when I was on the independent scene in the UK, I started in 2004, and it was an absolute wasteland at the time. It was really bad. The level of talent was terrible. There wasn't much going on. And it was very difficult to try and get steam and get noticed by the Americans. And I always thought in the back of my head, as you know, Drew was a physically impressive guy. I felt like I was 6'6". I was physically impressive. So was Sheamus coming over from Ireland and wrestling on the UK scene. And I always thought, historically speaking, probably one of us three would get picked up by WWE, and that's going to be it. So it was always like, yeah, I want these guys to do well, but I also want to have this career. And Sheamus, to his credit, always said from day one, the three of us are going to get hired together. The three of us are going to go to WWE, and we're all going to be successful. And turned out he was absolutely right. And that at the time was kind of shocking. There'd never in history really been that many kind of Brits, and I included Sheamus in the Brit category because he really came up on the UK scene. Even though he's an Irishman, and the Irish won't appreciate me saying that. But yeah, it was kind of unique. But now to see, as you say, so many Brits and Irish people involved, and other Europeans too. You've got Axiom, who's a Spaniard. We've got some Austrians in there, German people in there, and probably more in the pipeline on the way. So yeah, it's really cool that the company has opened up its borders, and it truly is a global company now, not just in the fan base, but also in terms of the guys you see on screen competing too. So yeah, it's very awesome for somebody who's not originally from the US to see all these guys from the rest of the world coming involved and more prominent in the rosters.
It's fantastic. Just going back there to when you debuted, you're a guy who's had a lot of different personas under the kind of Wade Barrett umbrella. The game has a lot of personas for a lot of characters, but there's some of yours that are still missing. Is there a specific era you would like to see represented? I'm a huge Nexus guy. When you had that Superman hair and like the yellow Nexus t-shirt, that was unbelievable.
Superman hair. I like that. Yeah, very Clark Kent. Yeah, I'd love to see the Nexus stuff in there. I think part of the aura of Nexus was the group that I was with, and unfortunately, there's not many of those guys who are currently under contract, so that might be part of the issue there. I guess you could put me just in the Nexus shirt and the Nexus armband. But on top of that, of course, Bad News Barrett was another high point in my career. I'd say I get a lot of messages on social media. Hey, can we get the Nexus version? Can we get the Bad News Barrett version? Can we get the bearded version, hopefully with a little less grey than it has in it nowadays? But yeah, so probably those would be the two kind of high points in ring wise that I'd like to see a bit more of on the next incarnation of WWE's game.
I'm afraid I've got some bad news. The thing that people shout at you most in the supermarket and on the street?
All the time. All the time. Guys will drive past me in a car, wind the window down as they go, and I'm a man, and just keep going. And it's one of those things that I always laugh when it happens, because when it was kind of created, it was never in anyone's head that this thing is going to be a long-running thing that's going to take Wade to a prominent position on the card. And 10 years after I last said it on TV, people are still coming up to me and saying it, and people still send me pictures of themselves on social media wearing a Bad News Barrett shirt. So it really sums up how in this industry you've just got to throw things at the wall, and you never really know what is going to stick. You never know what is going to work. And that was just one of those examples. Okay, there's probably a 1% chance of this taking off, and for whatever reason, it just caught fire at the time and worked. And I always tell younger guys in the industry, so many things that work in wrestling, you cannot write them down as a pitch and say to the writers and say to management, hey, I've got this a great idea. I always imagine just going in to the management room and say, hey, I've got this great pitch. I want to be this guy, Bad News Barrett, who gets up on a scissor lift, it goes up in the air, and I yell bad news, and then I just disappear. And like they would say, get out. What do you it's never going to work kind of thing. But it's one of those things, organically, it just took off. And part of the beauty of our business is you just never know what's going to catch fire. And that was one of those things that did.
Excellent. And just to close off here, I'd like you to send the audience away with a British Bulldog match to watch. You can't say SummerSlam against Brett because everyone has seen that. You see that when you close your eyes. So give us a niche pick for British Bulldog matches.
Okay, niche pick. Probably the match that made me fall in love with the British Bulldog and his performances. He had a match against the Warlord at the time. And the Warlord was this huge, powerful guy, 300 pounds plus, just rippling muscle, one of the strongest guys in the history of wrestling at the time, and it was billed as power versus power. The Warlord had this move called the Full Nelson that nobody ever escaped, and he would break people's necks with it and snap their shoulders. And the battle was the Bulldog strong enough to take on this guy? So it probably 1989, 1990, something like that. I'm not even sure exactly which PLE it took place on, but look up the Warlord versus the British Bulldog.
VGC is supported by Patreon. Check out patreon.com/videogameschronicle for more podcasts, ad-free browsing, and extra content. Thank you for your support.